Broadcasting live as of now. Okay. Okay. With Jeff Kanata and Devindra to discuss Run, the Hulu one, and a bunch of other things.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun one.
The thing is, I'm interviewing the director for Culturally Relevant this weekend as well.
He's a very nice guy. He's a very nice guy.
Super nice guy. He's
repping
repping the South Asians, Devindra, in the Hollywoods and such.
He's like 27 or some shit. He's super young too. Like he's just.
You know what?
Say
screw
some things
screw that guy. Yeah. No one should be that talented.
Screw that guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I support people up to a point, but once they're
showing
like me up with their youth.
When they're like when they've accomplished more in like 27 years than you have
exactly
with like
a decade
I just
more
hate
them more.
Yeah,
that.
Screw those guys. Shit. Yeah. All right, tweeting this. Here we go.
He's probably going to listen to the review, huh? So, well. I'm not going to pull punches, so.
You do what you got to do, guys. You do what you got to do.
I got to get this out of my system.
I'm going to be holding the line here. I'm going to be holding the line. That's okay.
Good luck.
That's okay. Yeah, thanks.
Dave's going to keep saying, well, I think the director is a fantastic guy. And so young.
That's a terrible impression of me, Jeff.
Really? I thought it was spot on.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Slash Filmcast. I am David Chen, and with me are
Devindra Hardawar
and Jeff Kanata.
Welcome to the show, everyone. Today on the podcast, we're going to be discussing some what we've been watching, getting some weekly plugs in there before moving on into an in-depth review of Run, the new horror thriller starring Sarah Paulson that's available right now on Hulu. And I'm excited about this conversation. It's a follow-up, Anish Chaganty's follow-up to his hit film Searching, starring John Cho. Very, very different
that we all
films.
Loved.
Yeah, we all loved.
We loved Searching.
Yeah.
So excited to talk about his follow-up.
I think, wasn't Searching on, I think it was on all of our top 10s that year?
I don't know about that.
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But I really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was.
We all liked it. It's certainly a very creative film. And I'm looking forward to talking about Run with y'all. You can find more episodes of this podcast at slashfilmcast.com. Email us at slashfilmcast@gmail.com. And also support us on Patreon over at patreon.com/filmpodcast, where you can sign up for ad-free episodes as well as bonus After Darks, which we're releasing into the main feed through the end of the year. Thanks so much to the 1,028 patrons who have contributed.
Hit the ding.
Yeah.
We hit the 1,000 mark and more.
Thanks so much to all those folks for backing us at patreon.com/filmpodcast. Y'all are awesome.
Feels good.
I've really been enjoying the After Darks, doing the After Darks with you guys again. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Anyway, patreon.com/filmpodcast. Before we get to all of that, though, a couple of items to mention. First of all, I want to check in with you. How are your Thanksgivings, gents? Jeff, I know you ordered from like a restaurant, right? Ruth's Chris or something like that, if I recall.
That's the way to go.
How are you? Are you stalking me? Did I tell you that?
Pretty sure you mentioned it on the podcast last week.
Did I? Oh, yeah. I'm an open book.
He could tell from the camera that's above your dining room table. You know?
Oh, that camera. The one that says Dave Chen on it.
It's weird.
It's weird. Weird that you labeled it like that.
Yeah.
Maybe I did? I don't know. Yes, we this was, I am fairly confident to say, the fewest number of people I've ever spent Thanksgiving with.
Wow.
In that it was my wife and 2 children, and that's all. I don't think I've ever had a Thanksgiving with fewer than, or with as few as 4 people in the room.
Yeah. I have to say, Jeff, I love how you're flaunting your friends and family with us all, you know?
Yeah. Usually I'm just reveling in the
joy. You're just surrounded by the love of friends and family. Yes. Okay.
You guys often have Thanksgivings with few people?
Not often, but I've definitely had smaller ones when I wasn't near people. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't think I have. I don't think I've ever not spent the holiday. There's
Yeah.
been a couple of times
Again,
where I've spent,
like I say, Jeff, la di da.
Yeah, no, great
Canada.
work on being so incredibly popular, Jeff. That's
Wow.
awesome. Yeah.
that's
No,
not,
good for
that
you.
wasn't the
No,
Well,
good for you. Good for you. I'm happy
you
for
know,
you, Jeff.
sometimes I've been invited to multiple Thanksgivings on the same day.
No,
It's just so hard, you guys.
Good for you. Good for you. That's cool. That's nice. It's
I've
nice
been
that
to
you have
Canadian Thanksgiving on an October. Anyway, they call me Mr. Thanksgiving around here. No, it was just an interesting experience, you know, being not with people. It was just
right.
It was, you know, I have dinner with these 4 people every day, and then this day was like a special dinner, except that it wasn't, because my kids, who are 4 and 2, they didn't have any point of reference for it being special. You know, we kept trying to tell them, hey, it's special. But it's, you know, when you're a kid, what's special is that Nana and Papa are over, and you know, the grandparents are around, and your cousins are running through the hallway, and it's special because everybody's dressed up, and when Mom and Dad are still in their sweatpants because that's the only clothes that we have now, and
they weren't wondering about the glorious meal you were eating, Jeff, and like
they could not.
Daddy, can I have some? Can I have a
they
bite?
could not have wanted that meal less. You know why? Because it wasn't noodles with no sauce. That's why they didn't want that. The traditional noodles with no sauce Thanksgiving was not happening at my house. No, but I don't know how interesting this is, but the Ruth's Chris experience was the food phenomenal.
Nice.
The organizational structure of picking it up. Absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievably, it's like no one anticipated Thanksgiving would be a little out of the ordinary. You know, it's like no one's thought, hey, we might be a little busy. Let's step up the structural integrity of this process.
Wow, Jeff, I'm so sorry that your Ruth's Chris pickup process didn't go well. Did you have a hard time getting your caviar and champagne afterwards as well, or was that a smoother process?
We ordered. My goodness. Coming down hard on me. We didn't cook. We splurged on the 2-person meal from Ruth's Chris that was still under $100. We splurged on Thanksgiving. We would have spent way more than that in grocery bills if we cooked. So I don't know how it turns into me being Daddy Warbucks over here.
Jeff, I think you dropped your monocle over here. Sorry. I just found your monocle.
Well, just give it to one of my many friends, Dave. They'll give it back to me.
Oh man, Jeff, what was the shit show going on with the steak?
Oh, okay. So there was a hint of a shit show when my wife put in the order several days early, like 4 days early. She calls up the Ruth's Chris and she says, "Hey, we'd like to order."
Is this Ruth or is this Chris?
Yeah. We never clear on the phone. They don't identify themselves. And why is Chris owned by Ruth? You know, why is it Ruth's Chris?
Weird. So weird.
It is so weird. So they pick up the phone and she says, "I'd like to order 2 adult turkey dinners with all the fixins." And they're like, "Sure, cool, no problem." And she's like, "Do you want my credit card?" And they're like, No, you can pay for it when you get here." And she's like, "Do I get a confirmation number?" And they're like, No. An email of any kind? No, we have your name down. Just show up. What time should I show up? Well, what time is good for you? 4? Okay, be here at 4. Your meal will be waiting for you. It'll be under your name. Okay. And so that was the first warning signal that maybe they just don't have their shit together, you know?
For sure.
And that bore out. That turned out to be the case. I drove down there by myself. Thank God. I at one point was thinking of bringing my son with me because he likes to go in the car, and we go pick up meals sometimes in the
He's one time in the outside zone. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. We go to curbside pickup and he thinks it's a big outing. It's amazing. But thank God I did not bring him, because I get down there and there is easily 40 to 50 people in a clump just milling about under a couple of tents that are set up in the outdoors in front of the place. It happened to be a really gusty day here in Los Angeles. The Santa Anas were whipping around, and so these tents were like being toppled over. It looked like what 2020 is. You know, it was just a bunch of people in masks with toppled tents huddled together, way closer than they should have been, all just hoping to get some food. You know, it was the saddest thing, and there were 3 or 4 employees. None of them knew anything. I get there. There's multiple what looks like sort of loose lines. Then there, you know, I didn't know where to stand. And I finally get to the front of one of the line after about a half an hour. And I'm like, it's under my wife's name. And they're like, the lady literally holds up a binder, like a loose leaf binder full of papers that are sort of sticking out all cockeyed. And she's like, these are all their orders. None of them are in the computer. I'm going to need you to tell me what you ordered. And I'm like, my wife did it. I don't know. Turkey dinners. And she's like, so anyway, so we ordered turkey dinners with, we actually ordered 3 turkey dinners, one for each of us and one for the kids in total to share, which obviously they didn't want anyway. It was stupid, but we did it. And we ordered all 3. You get an appetizer, the main course, and then you get, green beans and mashed potatoes and sweet potatoes and little desserts. So our appetizers, we selected lobster bisque, all 3 of them. We were excited about the lobster bisque soup. Sounded delicious. So 3 lobster bisques, turkey. Anyway, so I'm standing there, tell her the thing. She charges me. I start, waiting in the throng of people, and everybody. Well, one guy had been there over an hour waiting for his food. People are, they're starting to sort of organize, and anytime a poor employee would show their face, it would be like, hey, is there any information that you can tell us? This guy's been waiting. People are like defending each other. Like, that guy's been waiting here. And then one guy will walk up and be like, hey, I just need my food. And everybody like, no, you're behind her and you're behind him. It was like this Lord of the Flies situation that was emerging. None of it
turkeys,
good.
Jeff.
Lord of the Turkeys. Yeah, no, well done. Yeah. And so eventually through all of that, I managed to sort of befriend this other lady who driven all the way from Manhattan Beach. And then when she got served, she's like, hey, you got to get him his food. He's got a 4-year-old at home. I'm like, yeah, 4-year-old and a 2-year-old. It's like playing the sympathy card as much as possible. And she finally I get my food and it's chaos. People are all, looking to try to get food from other people. There's bags that are unclaimed and people are just pillaging and pulling stuff out of. They're like, we don't have any more green beans. You can't have green beans. I'm like, okay, I don't need green beans. Fuck the green beans. I don't need green beans. I just want to leave. An hour and a half later, get home. The turkey is delicious. Incredible. The sweet potatoes, out of this world. Mashed potatoes, yummy. Stuffing, not so great. Lobster bisque was 3 bowls of gravy. They gave us 3 bowls of gravy instead of soup.
I see. I thought you were describing the lobster bisque, but no, they just gave you the wrong thing.
They literally, it was such chaos and so disorganized on every level that they literally packaged up 3 bowls of gravy instead of soup. So
amazing.
We have plenty of gravy. Yeah. Anyway, so that was my Thanksgiving. And then we ate, and the kids refused to eat any of that stuff. And then I watched Run by myself, and that was my Thanksgiving.
The perfect capper to any Thanksgiving meal. Yeah. How about you, Devindra? You have a good Thanksgiving?
Yeah, I mean, I proceeded with the plan. I told you guys, like, my wife and I, we made food. So I baked the turkey the day before. Yeah, it's fun. I like doing the stuff. And my wife roasted a roast pork, a pernil. And so she made a whole bunch of pies and stuff too. And we spent Wednesday just driving around Georgia. So I dropped it off at my parents' house, dropped it off at my brother's house, and then we had like a remote dinner on Thanksgiving. But
that's nice.
Like a Zoom situation.
Yeah. I mean, we FaceTime every night. So like nighttime with us is dinner. I put an iPad in front of my daughter, and we FaceTime my parents, and we always talk every night anyway.
It's hilarious that you moved closer to them, and then that's the way you interact with them.
It's still the way. It's still the way.
It's fascinating.
Maybe things will be better.
It's fascinating to reflect on like the things that the pandemic has taken from us and hasn't taken from us, right? And and it's taken away from us so much. But one of the things that's nice that it hasn't taken away from us is, in general, you can still safely drop off food for people, right? Like there's very little evidence that there's foodborne illness, that COVID is foodborne. So
Yeah,
thank God, right? What would we do?
Yeah.
What would we do if we like couldn't get takeout from places, or like that would be Jesus.
It'd be very bad. Things would be much
so
worse.
much worse.
Like, as bad as things are this year,
Yeah.
it could have been a lot worse in many ways. But I do have to say, like the dinner itself, like it was nice doing the ritual, because I usually for the past couple of years I've been the one baking the turkey for my wife and our family in New York. So I still like doing that. We still like preparing the meals, and we like doing the big holiday stuff because this pandemic has taken so much from us. At least we can have some semblance of a family celebration, And I am also very happy that my daughter is just like ravenous. Like she will eat whatever I put in front of her, which I really enjoy seeing, because she was tearing through the roast pork. She was really devouring the turkey. Like she was on a ball. Maybe I'm just I feel like I'm always tempting her with foods, and it's kind of tricking her into eating things. Like she's had kimchi at this point and she loves it. So
you lucked out, dude.
Lucked out here so far. Also, my wife doesn't have, like, she can't eat too many things, so my daughter's my new eating buddy. So it's all great to have,
Yeah.
That's great. We had a little Thanksgiving celebration in our COVID bubble. Our COVID bubble friend Carter, and just to be clear, when I say COVID bubble, what I mean by COVID bubble is the three of us interact with each other indoors and with no one else. Like it is a completely self-contained bubble. So we spend basically every day together, and we had dinner together. And Carter is quite the chef. So I like Instagrammed and tweeted about our spread, and it was great. And she cooked a lot of stuff along with my wife.
I like how you definitely planned this situation out for yourself, Dave.
Yeah,
like COVID bubble with the chef.
Yeah, somehow I'm the aristocrat, and you've got like your personal chef in your bubble.
But
I'm the guy because I go to freaking takeout and stand in the windy outdoors hoping to get some food.
I would not describe her as my personal chef. But yeah, I'm very grateful for the food that she cooks. She reads a lot of recipes, and she isolates the best ones.
She just cooks for you every day, and it's great. It's great.
I mean, not every day, but
it's just forwarding recipes. Like, ooh, have you noticed this one? Look at that.
I mean, I'm not saying we don't share recipes, but anyway, it was delightful. It was great. We spent that evening kind of talking about what we're thankful for, and we watched Panic Room, which I'll talk about later during the podcast. So.
That is actually a movie of the moment, but yeah, I can't wait to talk about that more.
So
Panic Room, the Thanksgiving film, as I think everyone agrees. Yeah.
So anyway, we hope out there that you had a good Thanksgiving, a safe Thanksgiving, and I'm just really glad actually that the two of you didn't do any traveling or anything that was unsafe, because that would make for a tense segment.
Unsafe traveling.
Yeah, exactly. But that would have made for a tense opening segment of the podcast. So. Anyway,
I don't know if you guys have encountered this with your relatives, or the pressure to come or anything like I did. There was some of that, and there's also like I have an aunt and a cousin, and my cousin at some point had contracted COVID, and they're just not being safe at all. Which I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're the ones. You're just keeping it going here down in Georgia. But that's also the way so many people down here feel. It's just really, really wild. I cannot wait for this vaccine to just, come, and hopefully people actually take that, or at least the benefit of, smarter people actually taking, the precautions.
Hopefully enough people will take it. But yeah, when I go outside,
that's all I can hope for.
When I go out for a walk, like everyone socially distanced, everyone like wears a mask. It's just reassuring, that I'm like surrounded by people who are taking this thing seriously.
Yep, that must feel good.
I would wish that for anyone. I would wish that for everyone.
Yeah, I don't necessarily see that either. But
yeah.
So before we get to what we've been watching, I do want to follow up one thing from last week's episode of the podcast. Last week on the Slash Filmcast, we talked about The Nest, Sean Durkin's new film. We all really enjoyed that movie. And at one point in the podcast, I said, I asked the question, like, why do we think it took place in the 80s? And I said, one of the reasons it took place in the 80s is because the finale of the film depends basically on not having modern technology. Like, if there was modern technology, the finale wouldn't work. I didn't mean to imply that was the only reason it took place in the 80s, and I apologize if it came out
okay. Yeah.
So I apologize if it came out that way.
Case?
But yeah, there's other reasons it took place in the 80s, and Sean Durkin actually discusses in an interview at slashfilm.com where he says, quote, "I chose 1986 because I wanted this movie, The Nest, to be centered on the eve of the the financial Big Bang. Many companies in London being sold off at that time, and it seemed a chance to make a lot of money. Obviously, no one knew that the financial markets would crumble a year later. I did want those values of that time to be at the core of what was going wrong in this family. This idea of the guy who's been sold this idea of success and thinking he's doing the right thing for his family, not thinking about the details and what it means emotionally. So it always comes for me out of the character first and their decisions, and the bigger scenes come later," end quote. So anyway, just wanted to call that out. Bummer that I didn't mention that. I want to thank Mark in the Slack Filmcast for bringing my attention to that quote. But just wanted to clarify that the setting accomplishes many things. One of which is a lot of the finale.
We mentioned that.
I think it was all about the music, you guys. It's all about the music.
I mean, the soundtrack was great in that film.
So good.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Those are opening thoughts for the podcast. Let's get to what we've been watching, gents. So this week I want to talk about a few items. First of all, I finished How To with John Wilson. Have you guys heard of the show? I think some of you have started watching it, right?
I mean,
I think we've all watched it. Yeah.
At this point, yeah. And so it's 6 episodes, and I finished the finale this week. Now, before I talk about the finale, Jeff, you watched your first episodes this week of the show, right?
I did, yes.
So I want to hear what you thought of the first few episodes, or whatever episodes you watched before I talk about the finale.
I think this show is brilliant, structurally and sort of, what's the word I want? The methodology is amazing. Clearly, this show is constructed out of just tons and tons and tons of footage, right?
Yeah.
He forms
this is a guy that just shoots footage. Yeah, for fun.
And then he sort of builds a narrative out of this found footage. And I've never seen anything quite like this. It's extraordinary. It's reality in a really interesting, through an interesting artistic lens, right? It is clearly someone that it's like hitching a ride with a very observant person.
Yeah.
Right. He's clearly noticing things that most people don't, and using that stuff, right? The things that seem to capture his attention at any given day, or capture at least the direction that he points a camera, often fascinating, often those things that most people overlook, a little exchange between people, a strange position of a discarded item on the streets, a sign tilted just so. And out of all of these little captured moments, these little obscure, disparate things, he creates connections and builds a narrative out of that. And so in that sense, I think it's brilliant. I haven't watched all of them, but it for now, it's a show that I more admire than enjoy, I'm impressed with it on a structural level and on a artistic level, but the episodes I've watched, I've chuckled at a few times and I've thought, wow, that was just a genius turn of how you used that, or how you took the theme and bent it in a different direction. But ultimately, I didn't come away, excuse me, my throat. I didn't come away from any of these episodes that I watched feeling like that was, as a whole, that experience was incredible. I kind of admired it more than I loved it.
I think he's doing a better job than anybody else of capturing New York today in a very realistic way. When I talk about loving being in New York and people watching and everything, like, that is what this show is. It is all his footage of people watching in New York, because there's always something interesting happening. You can turn around and you'll find, a couple fighting, or a guy wearing a really weird outfit or something. I remember one of my most indelible memories is having brunch with somebody in NoHo, and then just walking back to the subway. It was just an old guy in a thong bikini, just walking down the street.
As you do.
Yep. As you do. Like, as completely normal. It's like, New York. Love it. Love it completely. I don't know. But so Dave, overall thoughts? Because there's one specific episode I really have to unpack with you guys.
Yes, I think I know what you're talking about.
Unfold, as it were.
You have to stretch your way through it. Is that what you're saying?
I love the show. I think it's brilliant. I want to talk about the finale, but yeah, I guess we should say we'll give away some minor spoilers as we talk about some of the episodes, but we'll try to avoid any like hardcore spoilers. I mean, I also think that this is a show that needs to be seen to be believed. It's really hard to quote unquote spoil. I will say that the degree to which things can be spoiled is every episode begins with a seemingly innocuous title, like how to put up scaffolding or how to cover your furniture, things like that. Very, very basic things. And then at some point in the episode, it just takes a hard left turn.
Sometimes like 15 seconds
into something
sometimes it doesn't waste any time to do that.
And you have that's the thing that's so delightful is you have no idea where this is going, but you know it's going to go somewhere unpredictable, right? So anyway, Devindra, you wanted to process episode 4, I think, right?
Yeah, how to cover your furniture, because I think by the time you get to the episode, you're like, okay, I get the vibe of the show. Right?
Yeah,
I see what he's doing. Yeah. He's a guy who obsessively captures footage for fun. That's what he does. And one thing he reveals is that he also has a journal of everything he does every day for the past decade or something, which seems insane to me. It looks like the scrawlings of a madman, but I think that completely explains who this guy is and what he's doing. And by capturing the footage, you get to this episode.
It starts with like a very practical guide of like, hey, sometimes people have furniture and they want to cover it with plastic because they don't want it to get damaged. Like it's a very normal thing.
What does that mean? What does it mean?
What does it mean to want to cover up furniture though?
Yep, I grew up with furniture that was covered in plastic.
Me too.
Because yep.
My grandmother. Oh my God, it was crazy.
It's either older folks or immigrant families too. It's a very popular thing. Like they go straight to an Indian household in that episode because it's like that is literally what everybody in my family does because you got to preserve the furniture. It's the most important thing.
You don't have shit
in the world.
My grandparents, immigrants from Italy, they didn't have shit. So when they got furniture, they're like, we're not gonna waste our furniture on the family.
And real furniture is expensive, So yeah, I understand the impulse completely. My mom still has the furniture she wrapped up sitting in her living room somewhere now, but nobody uses it. It's so uncomfortable. It is so pristine that you never want to do it. But
my grandmother literally had an entire room in their house that no one went in. It was their like entertaining room, like the family room, but literally no one went inside. It was pristine and it was not to be entered by any human being. Like and they wouldn't have dinner in their dining room. They had dinner in their kitchen. Because you kept the nice things for the guests, but family were not guests. Yeah. Yes, exactly. Anyway, go ahead.
Yep. I just want to say, okay, I was totally down with this. We saw the process of somebody how they make custom furniture covering, right? They wrap it up. They make it all custom fitting. So the actual furniture guy does not cover his furniture because it's insane, and you should never do that. But then you get to this point where
you mean the guy making the coverings does not, in fact, cover his own furniture.
The guy whose livelihood depends on people covering their furniture does not cover his furniture. That should tell you something.
But the best part is that he's like, interviewing the guy. He's like, "Do you cover your furniture?" Nope. And that was the extent of it. It was just that's all you get.
But then it gets to coverings of all kinds, right? Coverings and things that we protect. Then it gets to circumcision. Then it gets to people who want to reverse circumcision, and then gets to this guy, this guy that I feel like I've just met people like him, like a very, very smart conversational older fellow. He's the college town guy. He's somebody who is just very smart, knows a lot of things. You'll have a good conversation with him, and then we end up in his bathroom. Then he takes off his pants, then he takes off his underwear. And HBO does not shy away from any of this. Like it is full on. We see the technique of how he's attempting to reverse his circumcision by pulling the remnants of his foreskin down with weights, and it just shows it all. Like there's no cutaway. It is probably the most horrific thing I've seen this year, and we have seen Possessor uncut.
I mean, uncut's a word.
Uncut.
the worst scene for me was not the bathroom scene. It was the bed scene with the pulley system that is rigged up to the headboard to maintain the tension on said foreskin.
During which, by the way, they review the Bong Joon-ho film Parasite.
Yeah.
And they said it was pretty good.
Good review.
They said it's pretty good. Yeah. So,
but man, it's a level of my jaw being on the floor and just embarrassment for everybody being involved. I think they get like a shot of his wife in the dining room, just please don't.
I think that was his daughter. I think that was his daughter, and I don't think you ever see. I don't think you ever see her face.
Either way, they were like, I don't want to be part of this. Like, this is what my dad is known for, and now is on TV. Great. It's amazing. And I was watching this episode with my wife because she really enjoys the kind of New York aspects of it. And actually, the episode before this, if you look very closely, there's like a shot of a baseball field early on with like a weird time machine looking car out in front. In the background is my old apartment building. So that is how much this show hits my New York nostalgia. But man, I will never forget these images.
Yeah, no, for sure. It definitely seared its way into my mind as well.
Nope.
You can't unsee it.
Yeah. You can't unsee it.
Well, so anyway, watch the show. Yeah.
The show is How To with John Wilson. I'll say a couple words about the finale, which is that one of the things that's interesting about the show, as Devindra indicated, is its New Yorkness, right? Is it displays the full breadth of humanity that you can see and experience in New York. But of course, we all know that New York was one of the first places that was hit by the coronavirus pandemic. And essentially what happens in episode 6 of How To with John Wilson is it shows him transitioning into the world of the pandemic, basically. Like,
man.
Most of the show has been shot pre-pandemic. And then as time goes on, like, it finally catches up with the pandemic and you see him kind of dealing with it. And I cried watching this episode because it was very, very powerful and moving. I'm not going to say exactly why, but it was one of the most brilliant half hours of television I've seen on TV this year. And
I'm ready for it. Yeah.
It was really effective filmmaking. And I did not anticipate that reaction because most of the time I'm watching the show, How To with John Wilson, I'm cringing. My soul is trying to leave my body.
You're crossing your legs, yeah.
But this episode, it was an emotional gut punch that I did not see coming. And I'll just say one thing, which is that one thing that this episode captures is how scary things were back then. Like, how little we knew back then, right?
Yeah.
And there is this subplot about, like, whether or not he should bring someone food, and it's like one of the people he asks the question to is like, nobody knows. Nobody knows whether it's okay to bring people food or not. Like, we have no idea. And it just brought me back to, 6-8 months earlier when we just had no idea how this thing was transmitted and what the most dangerous circumstances were.
And thank God we've gotten to a point where now we just choose not to know.
Yeah. We actually know things, but we decide not to because it hurts my face. The mask is too hard to wear.
Yeah. Well, anyway, I'd recommend the show, and the finale is really powerful. And
that's great.
The show is How To with John Wilson.
It's an interesting thing. It must take forever for him to construct an episode. I can't even imagine.
Must be ridiculous.
Well, I'll say
shot, I think in the first.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, just really quick. There's a shot or a sequence. I think in the first episode where he like goes through a number of doors. Like, he's like, it's you just open the door and you never know what you might find, and he opens like 6 or 7 doors. And by the way, we should say most of the show is shot first person, which you never see.
I don't think you ever even
like
see his face.
Grade.
Oh, you do see his face a lot.
How do you when he looks in a mirror, you see it, but in general, you don't see
all the time. You see it. There's this part that made me laugh my ass off is when they first show him. When MTV it tells him that he has to leave because in every shot he's looking at the camera. That's so funny. But anyway, there's a sequence where he goes through a bunch of doors, and the doors are in like they look like they're on different continents. In such wildly different places. Like, you'll walk out onto a balcony of some crazy place that looks like Taiwan, and then they like open a door in like this underground club, and then there's somebody's bedroom.
New York,
that's
man.
It's just
New
it's
York.
all wild, and just the idea that for that tiny sequence, like the number of hours it must have taken to just record stuff and then sort through it and build it all together. The whole show just feels laborious, you know?
Yeah, cataloging
like,
all the footage and then matching it up to the narrative. Yeah, must have been a Herculean task. So
I want behind the scenes of the show, because I wonder how much of it was like, I have this idea, I'm gonna go shoot footage for this idea, or I'm a crazy person who shoots footage of just everything in New York, including walking through random doors, because maybe this could be cool sometime. Like, I wonder, like, what was the motivation there?
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because on Nathan Fielder's YouTube channel, Nathan Fielder, the creator of Nathan For You, one of my favorite shows of all time, and also an executive producer on How To with John Wilson, they released a YouTube video called like Anatomy of a Scene, How To with John Wilson. Now, this is a very popular series at the New York Times. They do like Anatomy of a Scene, where they have a director comment on a scene. And Nathan Fielder releases this Anatomy of a Scene with How To with John Wilson. And watching it, I just knew that it was not going to be a regular Anatomy of a Scene. He was going to take this format and do something ridiculous and surprising and possibly upsetting with it. And I'm just going to say I was not at all disappointed. And I would strongly recommend, if you've watched How To with John Wilson, definitely watch this YouTube Anatomy. Or even if you're a fan of just Nathan For You, watch this YouTube video of Anatomy of a Scene. We'll link to it in the show notes. It is incredibly amusing. I laughed my ass off watching it. And it did not disappoint. I had high expectations. It did not disappoint. So anyway, that's How To with John Wilson. It's on HBO Max. And I would also recommend the Anatomy of a Scene on YouTube. All right, so a couple other things I want to mention real quick. As I mentioned, our post-Thanksgiving meal movie was Panic Room. Getting in the David Fincher vibe, because we're going to be reviewing Mank next week. And this is a movie that our COVID bubble hadn't watched in a while. Some of our COVID bubble hadn't watched at all. It's one of my favorite thrillers. I really enjoy the movie, and rewatching it.
I'm glad you watched a good thriller this week, Dave. Yeah.
Rewatching it again, I have to say, still brilliant. Some of the visual effects are dated, but I think overall it's really effective. And what impressed me the most this time around watching it, watching Panic Room, is you have these 5 characters in one house, and what's so great about this movie is how the screenplay like Tetrises these characters. Like, it's like inside the Panic Room, outside the Panic Room, and then you have Jodie Foster and her daughter Kristen Stewart and these other 3 guys, and it's like the screenplay figures out ways to reconfigure those elements into kind of different configurations that make for really tense drama, and I appreciated that. It's like, wow, you only have these 5 ingredients and 2 locations basically, and how are you gonna like mix them up? How do you even get them into a place where they are mixed up? You know what I mean? It's very creative. It's very creative. I really enjoy it. And the only thing that I'm disappointed by is that we don't have a really good physical media release of this film. Like, there is no 4K Blu-ray of this.
Oh, man.
I don't even know if there's a Blu-ray of this, to be honest with you. Which is a shame, because it had one of the best DVD releases ever. It had like a 3-disc DVD release that was really impressive. And I think there
is a 4K Blu-ray. There is a 4K Blu-ray.
I don't think you can buy it anywhere, though. It's not readily available, as far as I can tell. Like, if you try to find it on Amazon, I don't think it's possible. But let me know if I'm missing something. But I don't think it exists right now. So it's unfortunate. But anyway, you guys a fan of Panic Rooms? Or are you guys a fan of
Panic Rooms? Just like
I would love a Panic Room.
Just the one.
I would love a Panic Room right now. Yeah.
Are you a fan of putting in a Panic Room in your house? Because
I mean, my wife spent a good 30 minutes after the film talking through the pluses and minuses of having a Panic Room.
Well, let me just tell you that during the COVID year, my entire house is a Panic Room.
Yeah,
That's all we have is panic rooms.
That's all. Every home is a panic room.
There's no non-panic. There's panic everywhere is what it is.
I think, by the way, for those who are curious, the conclusion we came to is that they're pretty impractical in the sense that unless you are ultra wealthy, doesn't really make sense to have a panic room. Just gonna put that out there.
There are only 4 people who are ultra wealthy, right? There's no starter panic room.
There's only 4 people. What are you talking? Are you just what?
I said it's only 4 rich people. It's not. There's no
in the world. Is that what you're saying?
Not the number 4. It's only 4 rich people.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Okay, sorry about that.
It's only 4 rich people. There's only 4 rich people.
I thought you said there's only 4. The number 4 rich people. Like,
Zuckerberg, Bezos. There's only 4 of them.
Yeah.
Bill Gates.
What is Jeff saying right now? Okay. So also, I had a chance to watch a movie. So I've been getting a couple screeners, and I had a chance to watch a movie that is not going to be available until it's in theaters in December and January. But it's distributed by Neon, the company that distributed Parasite. So it'll definitely get a home video release at some point. But it's called Gunda, and I'll just read this text from the trailer of Gunda. So this is just literally on the trailer for Gunda. They have this text. Okay, it says the following: "This is a film to take a bath in. It's stripped to its essential elements without any interference. It's what we should all aspire to as filmmakers and audiences. Pictures and sounds put together to tell a powerful and profound story without rush. It's jaw-dropping images and sound put together with the best ensemble cast, and you have something more like a potion than a movie." End quote. Any idea what filmmaker said those words? You want to guess what filmmaker said those words?
It's a baller quote.
Michael Bay. Yeah. Okay, all right, that's one guess. Jeff, any guesses as to what filmmaker?
M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan, not a bad guess. The answer is P.T. Anderson. P.T. Anderson said that about this movie, Gunda, which is a wordless 90-minute film by Victor Kossakovsky.
Yeah, this trailer looks like The Gritty Babe, by the way, which, okay, I'm down for.
You know what's interesting? It reminded me so much of Roma, to be honest with you. Because it is in black and white, and the font looks like it's from like the same font as Roma as well. But anyway, the movie Gunda follows the daily life of a pig, 2 cows, and a 1-legged chicken. And it just, there's no words, no humans. Movies. It's just 90 minutes of that in black and white. And it is absolutely transfixing, and I'd highly recommend it. But I'll talk about it more when people actually have the chance to watch it. But the movie's Gunda, and if you have the chance to see it at a film festival or something like that, you should check it out. All right, that's what I've been watching this week.
Add an M at the end, I'll be interested. You know what I'm saying?
Because it'll be bacon? What?
No, because it'll be all about the giant robots.
Gundam. Nicely done, Jeff.
Love it.
Devindra.
I like
how we're gonna recover from this. Yeah.
Devindra.
Giant robots, greater than symbol, 1-legged chicken.
All right, so that's what I have been watching this week. Devindra Hardor, what have you watched this week?
I've been catching up on the Small Axe films. I talked about them a bit already. These are the series of films, Steve McQueen, 5 films he's producing for Amazon. I already talked about Lovers Rock, which is an astounding work. And that is up now on Amazon Prime. But I also saw Mangrove, which is a film about a group of people. All these films are about the West Indian community in London. And it's about their experience throughout the 70s and I believe into the 80s. But it's capturing that specific community because Steve McQueen is West Indian. And I think I mentioned this before, but my family is too. So I find it to be a very, like, we've never seen this sort of thing before. We've never seen people talking with the accents of people from Trinidad and Barbados and Jamaica in a way where they're not just like side characters or, you know, joke characters or doing cool runnings or something, you know, like these are the way people actually talk. I wonder if watching these movies, I feel like most people may even need subtitles because sometimes it gets so specific, and so like the vernacular is things that only people, if you grew up in that community, you may understand what they're saying. So I'd probably recommend that. Mangrove is a film about a group of people who protested police violence in the 70s, and specifically around the Mangrove restaurant, which was sort of like a community hub in that neighborhood. I forget the neighborhood's name actually. But it was a hub for everybody, and we see in the film that the police would just randomly, kind of for no reason, just go in and ransack the place, because they assume something bad's happening, or there's drugs being sold, or prostitution or something. And you see throughout the film that no, the police just really want to mess with people, and they don't really care what happens. So the film centers on a protest that happens that got violent. 9 people were charged, held responsible for it, or for at least encouraging the violence. And the film is about that trial. So I found this film to be incredible because it doesn't look away from the sort of systemic problems that basically created this situation. Yeah, there was a protest, and yeah, things may have gotten violent after a lot of like police instigation, a lot of people being beaten up and imprisoned and taken away for no reason, just because these cops, who are all white, are just for fun want to like beat up this black community. And the film doesn't shy away from that, and I think that is, it just feels so powerful and focused in a way that I wished. Yeah, we talked about Trial of Chicago 7. I kind of wish that movie was more, because this movie really dives into the idea of protest and the idea of revolutionary dogma and why people are doing what they're doing. Um, and I just think it's truly, truly moving. And it stars, or co-stars, Letitia Wright in it too, who is fantastic as a Black Panther member and spokesperson. Um, I just love all these films. I'll be talking about all of them at some point, but if you want something that'll really stir you and just, yeah, remind you of the constant inequities and systematic racism that is happening all over the world, but especially in the Western world too. I think this film is worth a shot. And hey, it's right there on Amazon. I love the fact that Steve McQueen, after making his Oscar gold, he makes a kick-ass, heist movie. He makes Widows, and he makes a movie entirely about his community, making movies that we've never really seen before. So I really appreciate that from him, and yeah, can't wait to see the rest of them.
It's a Mangrove, and it is part of it's part of the Small Axe collection of films, right?
Yes, Small Axe collection films
on Prime Video. What else have you been watching, Devendra?
I saw Happiest Season, which is if you've been on Twitter or wherever this past weekend, it is the movie apparently everybody decided to see, because it's a really cute holiday rom-com with an amazing cast. Let me just list the cast of this movie. Kristen Stewart, Mackenzie Davis, Mary Steenburgen, Victor Garber, Alison Brie, Dan Levy, Aubrey Plaza, Anna Gasteyer. Just people who you see in things, you're like, oh, I would watch this because of them. I feel like this movie is a confluence of so many people you just want to watch. It's about a couple played by Kristen Stewart and Mackenzie Davis, who go home to their parents' house. Mackenzie Davis
also want to call out Burl
Yep.
Mosley is in the cast as well. Just want to put that out there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I love him. I love him so much. They go home to Mackenzie Davis's family for Christmas, and they're a lesbian couple, and the trick of it is Mackenzie Davis is not out to her family, so she and Kristen Stewart have to pretend to be friends, sleeping in separate bedrooms. And it's a rom-com, it's a sitcom in many ways like that too, and hilarity ensues. I find it to be a really fun, enjoyable holiday movie. And I think it's exploring something that feels legitimate too, like people who do have to go back home to their families and not show their true selves. And I think the movie doesn't shy away from that. It actually reckons with the fact that, man, this girl, she was raised in a way with parents who are very waspy, are very much about appearances and going to rich fancy parties and whatever. If you do anything bad, it'll reflect badly on the family. It all feels so true, and I won't spoil where it ends, but I think like it reckons with things that I've noticed a lot of people are championing it for. Like people have had this exact issue with coming out to their parents, or why you're not a horrible person if you feel so, trapped by your family environment that you can't really be your true self. Anyway, I think it's a lot of fun too. Like, despite all of this, it's also a ton of fun. I love seeing all these people, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's on Hulu now. If you just want like a cool holiday movie that won't make you want to claw your eyes out, I think this one is well worth a watch, because there's so many of those. There's so many bad ones. This one's actually fun.
That's Happiest Season. It's available right now on Hulu. What else have you been watching, David?
I have seen the Saved by the Bell, I don't know, remake,
Requel?
reboot,
Sidequel?
reboot. It's a requel. I have seen it. It's on Peacock, and guys, it's incredible.
I have heard it is very, very good.
It is one of the best comedies
Yep.
I have seen this year. It is astounding.
I'm sorry, guys.
How good the show
I gotta
is.
go. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You may want to sit down for this one, Jeff, because this show is just strap yourself in. This show spearheaded.
Ginger knows that I stand through the entire podcast.
No, I know you're getting ready to leave. I can hear it.
Oh.
I can hear it on my end. But the show spearheaded by the showrunner of Great News, Tracy, Wigfeld. She worked on 30 Rock. She worked on Mindy Project, and she has like a very specific view of what the show is, and the view is Saved by the Bell kind of sucked, as in everybody there
now I'm on
was
board.
terrible. Zach Morris is a freaking monster, and this show basically reboots the series based on that idea, very much in the way of there was another like good series reboot we were talking about recently. No, it's not quite hitting me, but this show starts with Zach Morris being the governor of California, and it is a promo. It's a political promo video of him being like, "Oh yeah, I believe in families and all this stuff." The crux of the show is that he passes like a $10 billion budget cut that hits education. It hits the schools. This show is actually about educational policy, because what happens is he basically cuts all the funding from all the poor schools. And the show centers on two characters from one of those schools who, in the middle of trying to, in a very Saved by the Bell way, like having a rally to try to save their school from being closed down by the evil government, their school just gets shut down and they get kicked out. And the only way to kind of make it right is to sort of trick those kids in to the richer schools that are still functioning. So now these kids from, poorer schools in poorer neighborhoods are going to what is the name of the school? Bayside High. They're going to Bayside High, and it does this amazing thing where whenever the show is in Bayside, you get the like really, really bright colors, the sitcom lighting from the 90s. Like one of the first scenes, like there's even like a bit of a cheesy laugh track and everything. And there are a lot of people you recognize there too. Like Elizabeth Hurley is back. And what's his name? Mario Lopez is back, playing their characters in very different ways. But though, whenever you're in Bayside High, you're in the sort of like faux happy
Elizabeth Berkley, I think,
world.
not Elizabeth Hurley.
Not Hurley, yeah. Elizabeth Berkley. But you're in that world of the 90s sitcoms where everything's just so cheesy and fun. And when you snap out of it and go back to the real world, you get the like actual realistic lighting of these poorer kids who are in their homes and don't have all the conveniences of the kids at Bayside. And the show is all about them trying to basically get used to life there. But it is a show that is so aware of all the issues of the original series. I watched probably every episode of Saved by the Bell. I didn't like that show, but it was just on. It was something that was on after school, and I think we all just ended up watching. And I don't think, like, aside from the occasional after-school special episode or something, I don't think it really stood for much other than, man, this Zach Morris guy is so cool. He has a cell phone that looks like a brick, which makes another appearance here, actually. He like, the rules don't matter to him. Like, he can do whatever he wants and nothing bad happens. The show reckons with all that, and I think it's very smart about that. Like, it brings up all the issues of a school like Bayside existing while in a neighboring town schools have nothing. They don't have books, they don't have iPads. It reckons with that privilege. It's also very funny. It's hilarious. And I think it's just so funny and self-aware that here's the thing. It requires a Peacock membership subscription to watch. You can watch the first episode for free, but if you want more, Saved by the Bell, you gotta pay the Peacock. I don't know if I'd be doing that, but I am very, very tempted because what I've seen this first episode is really good, and I've talked to some people who just really absolutely loved it. So maybe eventually it'll come to Hulu or something, but I just want to throw this out there to all of you and our listeners. This show's amazing. Based on the first episode alone, it's so good.
I spoke with my friend who's a TV critic recently, and I said, hey, what should I be watching? Should I be watching this flight attendant show? Should I be watching, I named a few things, and she said, honestly, the best thing I've seen recently is Saved by the Bell reboot on Peacock.
Yeah, but you got to pay for it.
Yep.
After one episode. Yeah.
All right, so that's the Saved by the Bell reboot on Peacock. Devindra, anything else?
Yeah, I just want to throw a quick shout out to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion that's on HBO Max. I love that show. That's a show I also grew up watching and watched every single episode, and I loved it. It was so good, so funny. I always loved that cast. It was a show that was aware of how special it was, I think, right? A show about a well-to-do Black family that was dealing with actual societal issues at times. And then, yeah, it could be silly. Like, it's incredibly silly. And really just a way for it's a starring spot for Will Smith to, show off his charm. I think this reunion is well worth a watch if you watched any of it. Even if you have like vague recollections of the show, I think it's worth it because it's great seeing the cast come back together. And Will Smith even does this thing where if you watch the show, you'll probably know there are two Aunt Vivs. I think at the beginning of season 3, the aunt gets recast with another actress, and the original actress Janet Hubbard was just apparently fired, and they go into discussion of that, and he basically has a sidebar away from the festivities where he has a sit down with her and talks with her about what went down. And I found that it was interesting to see because it was a story I always thought about. What happened to this very talented actor? And it turns out it was basically Will Smith being a young dick.
Yeah, it was a quite acrimonious split up, basically.
Yeah, he basically he in a way made it so that the entire cast ended up ghosting her or shunning her. She was going through her own personal issues, like she had a bad marriage apparently, and just a lot of things were going wrong. It was just not a good situation, but yeah, at the end of the day, Will Smith just kind of abandoned her and didn't support her in any way. So now what 30 years later, he's having some sort of like very public reconciliation with her. I think it's good to see. That whole sequence definitely serves Will Smith more than I think it serves her. And there is a point where she actually comes and meets the rest of the cast too, and she actually never met the actor who replaced her, the new Aunt Viv, which is just there must be a big story there. But anyway, it was really good to see. I'm glad they reckoned with it, but man, I want more from Janet Hubbard because I feel like she was so good. She was so good in those early seasons, and we just never saw enough of her.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. This is something I'm planning to check out because I was a huge fan of Fresh Prince as well. I watched it constantly when I was a kid. I think it was airing on like the WB. I would just rewatch like every episode. And
I remember I watched that show as it aired with my parents. Like the finale of that show, and honestly, the finale of a lot of shows made me cry a little because it's like I'm not going to see these people anymore. I'm not going to see this family anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's the Fresh Prince reunion and is on HBO Max, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
So check it out there. All right, that's what Devindra Hardawar has been watching this week. Jeff Kanata, why don't you give us like one or two items, and then we got to go to a break real quick.
Okay. I had a chance to watch a new HBO Max show as well, The Flight Attendant, which I think you just name checked.
Yeah.
Yep.
It is extraordinary. It is. I'm hooked on this show. Watched all 3 episodes that they've released so far back to back. And I did not know what I was getting myself into. We clicked on this, honestly, blindly because of a #/tag, which, by the way, I don't know what I need to do to get you to mention it every time we do the what we've been watching segment, but I love #/tag. And
You know,
I feel like
literally in the show notes, I always actually put it like, David, remember to mention #/tag, and I never do.
Talk about it.
It's my bad. It's my bad.
I feel like in particular for you, Jeff, it may be the only way you hear of new things.
It's
based
wonderful.
on your
It's the perfect hack. It's the perfect life hack, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, my wife and her youngest sister, whose baby's in the hospital nearby, and she doesn't live around here, but they had to bring the child to LA for there's a specialist here. So she has no place to stay. She basically is staying in the hospital with the baby. Her husband and she are swapping days because they only allow one parent in because of COVID. They only allow one parent at a time in to see the children. So she has stayed a couple of nights at our house and has entered our bubble, which has ramped up our COVID protocols because the idea of giving anything to that 8-month-old baby who's post-op would be catastrophic. So anyway, she was over and we were looking for fun, light things and gave this a shot. And I said, you know what, we can bail on this at any point. And we started the first episode knowing nothing and thought, oh, this is like what's her name, Emily in Paris, or what's that show that just was on?
It's Emily in Paris, Jeff.
I think it's actually Amélie in Paris.
Amélie in Paris.
It's supposed to rhyme basically. Anyway, go ahead, Jeff.
Anyway, that my wife blew through that show, and so I thought this is great. Sure. It is not that show, and gloriously so. We were immediately hooked. I kind of don't even want to spoil anything for anybody, but I would say watch this show. I mean, it is a wonderful, tantalizing mystery. And I'm like, we were discussing theories and what might be going on, and it hooked us right away. It has one of the coolest opening title sequences. It was it's late in the first episode that it happens after you kind of figure out what the deal is with the show. But you know, shows don't really do opening title sequences anymore. They just have like they do that like bum bum, and then that's it. You know, it's like, you know, one thing.
What do they do, Jeff? What do they do?
Did a ba-bong, you know, like that. This is like a full, you know, like 2 minutes of awesome animation, and it's a really slick opening title sequence. Anyway, the show hooks me. It's got the actress from Big Bang Theory in the lead role, and
Kaylee Cuoco. Yeah.
Yes, she's great. I don't even want to tell anybody what the deal is with the show. I just really hooked.
Yeah. I think you can say certain things because this show is literally being sold with the idea that this flight attendant is basically in a weird situation with a murder. Okay, like that is the trailer. That is the pitch for the show. It's on IMDb. That's not a spoiler. But I think where the show goes, it is pretty fun. It's also like a fun way to show like the main character just makes bad decisions, like bad decision after bad decision in terms of making herself not seem like she is somehow culpable in a gruesome murder. Like she is kind of very bad at this. But you buy it because of her. Yeah,
because of her, and also because it's the show's so good at the panic of what that must be like, and it's like I usually bristle at shows where I'm like, it's such a dumb thing for the main character to do. But in this situation, it feels consistent. And also you buy into like, you know, it's so overwhelming, the chaos she finds herself in, that you go, oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that was, in hindsight, that would be really dumb, but I could see myself maybe trying something like that. It's, it's best laid plans. You know, I love those best laid plans type of stories. It's good.
All right, that's the flight attendant, and it is available right now on HBO Max. Yes,
indeed.
Yes.
All right.
It is a Max original, which means it's not on actual HBO.
Indeed. All right. So
just hard to parse. You know,
the flight attendant is the show.
Yeah. And I also finally got around to seeing, after many #/tag recommendations, and actually the thing that put me over the top was my dad and his wife saying, you have to watch My Octopus Teacher. Now, this is an interesting situation of something that I resisted watching because I thought I knew exactly what this thing was. First of all, have either of you watched My Octopus Teacher yet?
Nope, but I've heard great things about it.
Yeah. So this was a situation where I thought, I know what this is. I'm not really in the mood to watch this. And it turns out I was exactly right about what I thought it was. I was just wrong about how much I would have wanted to see that. It is extraordinary. It is almost impossible. It feels impossible that this movie exists. It is a documentary about a guy who free dives. Free diving is going down deep in the ocean without any air. It's just holding your breath and going down. And he free dives down to this spot and finds an octopus. Octopus, by the way, some fucked up creatures. I do a whole podcast about it. We have concerns. We sell merch called that says "They's Aliens" on it because they's aliens. Nothing will prove they's aliens more than watching My Octopus Teacher. By the way, basically, My Octopus Teacher plays out like a First Contact movie, but it's a documentary that takes place on Earth in our time. So anyway, this guy free dives down and finds this octopus and decides to be completely obsessed with it. He goes every single day for well over a year, doesn't miss a single day of going into the ocean and free diving down to see this octopus. And by the very virtue of the fact that he goes there every single day, he develops a rapport with this creature where it starts to trust him. And he's able to capture on video impossible things. It doesn't make any sense. I need to watch. Maybe I should have read this before even bringing it up, but I need to find out the methodology of how this even was possible, because no matter how committed you are to being there every day, I don't know how he always manages to capture the things, like all of the big events that happen in this thing. He was there to capture. Not only that, but he's only able to be down under the water for like 3 or 4 minutes at a time before he has to come up and get air. So how the fuck did he get all this stuff? And the like reverse shot of it, like, I don't understand. I do not understand how it's even possible that we witness what we witness in this show, this movie. But you see incredible footage of an octopus that is, I think, the most extraordinary creature on this planet that I have ever seen. And, you know, we've talked about it a lot on my other podcast. They share no DNA with us. There's very few other creatures on this planet that share zero DNA with us. The octopus shares zero DNA. They's literally aliens. And you see this thing do shit that a sci-fi movie would spend a huge budget to visualize. You know, it is.
Arrival was right, basically.
Yes. Yes. And the level of intelligence that is on display in this movie, you go, oh my God, these are brilliant thinking creatures. And you know, I'm not usually one for nature movies. I'm not usually one for, you know, the National Geographic specials. I can enjoy those things from time to time. This is something on a whole other level as far as I'm concerned. And it really deserves all the accolades I've heard, all the people urging me saying, Jeff, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. You were right. Thank you for all those #/tag recommendations. You were right. My dad was right. I constantly, we were watching it and I was constantly turning to my wife and her sister and saying, this is amazing. What are we witnessing here? And I don't even want to spoil anything, but you see things that I don't know how he captured. I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he did it. Like literally holding his breath, going down and only being able to be down there. Like what happens when something incredible is happening and you're running out of air? What do you do? What do you do? You just, you're fucked. You have to go up and get air, but somehow it doesn't miss a beat and we don't miss any of these incredible moments. And like, it's amazing.
My question for you, Jeff, will you still eat octopus after watching this movie?
Oh yeah, octopus is delicious, dude.
It's delicious. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my dilemma right now, right? These beautiful, intelligent creatures that live right near us can't stop eating.
First of all,
Can't stop eating them.
First of all, Jeff, I think you would like Gunda based on our conversation, your description of octopus.
Well, I was thinking about Gunda I was thinking about my octopus teacher when you were talking about Gunda, but also I was thinking about giant robots.
But also, it's interesting that Joaquin Phoenix, who I think is a vegan, like came on to Gunda as a executive producer after he saw the film. And the idea of these movies, like forcing people to consider that the animals they eat have intelligence and personalities, it makes people less likely to want to eat them. So it's interesting the effect that can have. But
that's
anyway.
a baller move, right? You see a finished movie and you're like, I'll be an executive producer on that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's a pretty baller move. The movie's done, but I want to executive produce it.
I mean, I have literally done that before, but
I know it's a move.
But for smaller or shorter films. So anyway, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it, Jeff. For most of the last few weeks, whenever you've recommended something, I've gone on to watch it. By the way. So I actually watched
and not talked about it ever.
I mean, that's not true. I talked about the Auntie Donna thing, but also I did watch the World Champion thing. Which I thought it was kind of enjoyable. I didn't get as much out of it as you did. Also, there was
All I got out of it was laughter. That's what I got out of it.
There were a lot of people really confused during the last episode when you described a woman as eating shit. Like, I don't think that's a common phrase around the world. Like, people know what that is, but it basically means falling down on your face. But they just wanted to clear that up.
You guys knew what I meant, though, right?
Yes, I knew what you meant. Anyway, Jeff,
it's a colloquialism that it's about falling on your face. You eat shit when you fall. When you fall on your face.
Yeah, I mean, of course,
some actual shit eating.
Of course. Why wouldn't they be connected? But anyway, my point being, I've taken your advice, and so I'll probably check out this film, My Octopus Teacher, which is streaming right now on Netflix.
I think you're gonna really like it. It's something, like I said, I resisted watching it, and then my dad kept pestering me. He's like, "Have you watched it yet? Have you watched it?" I was like, "All right, I gotta do this, or else my dad's never gonna shut up about it." And I'm so glad I did.
All right, anything else you've been watching, Jeff?
So let me be your dad, is what I'm saying.
Weird. Anything else you've been watching, Jeff?
Well, something you mentioned a long time ago, I'll just be very brief about it, is we share a love of stand-up comedy. And you had mentioned Seth Meyers' stand-up special, Lobby Baby, which is fairly recent, but I think it's several months old now, very, very much pre-COVID. But I'm a fan of the Seth Meyers. I almost every night watch his A Closer Looks on YouTube before I go to bed. And his stand-up special is really good, really, really good. I could not believe it. I mean, I'm already kind of a fan of the guy, and his Weekend Update style delivery is fine, is good, but his stand-up special is brilliant. You talked about there's a section in it where he says he uses the Netflix feature of being able to sort of skip around and stuff, and he talks about there's going to be a section about politics. If you don't want to watch that, press this button, and sort of
you can skip over the political jokes, basically.
Yeah. Bandersnatches, and that's clever. I don't think that's the most clever thing that happens in this show. Or in this stand-up special, the most clever thing he does, in my opinion, is he does the last section of the stand-up special. He's been talking jokes about and telling jokes all about his life and his marriage, and it's called Lobby Baby because his wife literally gave birth in the lobby of their building to their child. He's talking about his relationship, and it's really wonderful observational humor, and that my wife and I both loved because a lot of it was like how we behave with each other too. But then at the end of the special, he goes, okay, now I'm going to do stand-up comedy as if my wife was telling the jokes. And he does this extended stretch where he's taking on her persona and talking about him. And it's great. It's brilliant. And I just thought it's wonderful callbacks to jokes he's made about her. But then you see like how her perspective would be on that same funny situation. And he throws himself under the bus, as she would. It's very clever, and I really enjoyed it. So it's called Seth Meyers Lobby Baby.
All right, and that is streaming on Netflix right now.
Indeed.
That is what we've been watching this week. Let's move on to weekly plugs. We're going to do weekly plugs. Let's do weekly plugs. Weekly plugs. Plugs. Let's do weekly plugs. Plugs. All right, this is going to be a shorter weekly plug section this week. I have a quick weekly plug, which is something else I watched this week is The Undoing, an HBO original series that I did not like. And I reviewed it with...
And yet you watched all of it. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not proud of myself, but I had a chance to talk about it with Tara Ariano, who is from the Extra Hot Great podcast, former guest of this podcast. And we discussed it on my personal Patreon page at patreon.com/Dave Chen. So check it out there if you are interested in hearing our thoughts on the HBO original series, The Undoing. That's my weekly plug this week. Jeff Kanata, any weekly plug you have?
Well, I do lots of things. I have lots and lots of shows, and I talk about them during weekly plugs quite frequently. But this week, it is post-Thanksgiving here in the United States, and I'm struck with gratitude. And so I thought I'd just take a moment here during weekly plugs to say thank you to everyone listening. We, as you know, started our Patreon just recently, and it's been extraordinary seeing how this community, this audience has rallied around this show. And, we talked about doing a Patreon for a long time before we did. We weren't sure it was a good idea for a long time. And to see how the audience has embraced us and supported this show makes me so grateful. It really does. And it has the potential to really add a level of security and ease of mind that I'm so thankful for.
Yeah,
the idea that we're not beholden to to anybody. We're literally making the show, and it can be sustained through the actual people who listen to it is pretty amazing.
It's incredible. And there's a few like impacts that this has. I mean, first of all, it motivates us to want to make a better show, right? And I think like from what I have observed, I think we have put more time and effort into the episodes now that we are backed by Patreon, and I think that's a good thing. And as you said, it helps to set us up to be more financially independent in general, which is something that's extremely valuable during this time in our lives. And it also sets us up for the future. It ensures that the show can keep going for a pretty long time. And those are all really meaningful things that we are very, very grateful for. So
I think that's all good, by the way. But from my perspective, it is really great to see that a ton of people aren't just listening, but actually want to pay to hear us, do stuff. It does make me think like, hey, yeah, what we're doing is actually important here. We're not just like a random episode on somebody's podcast feed. People are engaging with it, and I really
valuable to them.
That.
They are literally defining value for our show, and I think that's extraordinary. And I got a tweet this week, somebody saying, you asking for Patreon money and you have all these other things and yada yada yada, and you guys know this about me, but maybe the listeners don't, is I'm always expecting everything I do to fail. All the time.
That's like the way you should go through life. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, as the life of an artist means.
I'm the same way, by the way. I also expect everything Jeff does to fail.
Yeah, no, you're right most of the time. But everything, I assume everything's going to go away tomorrow, right? It's all going to go away, whatever, and that's just being an actor. You never know where your next gig is going to be. You never know how long it's going to last. It's all fleeting. It's all ephemeral. And you get into that mentality. Even, I've been doing DLC for 8 years. There are things that have lasted a long time, but I just always assume, well, this will be the last week, because of course there's no way. I mean, it's a little imposter syndrome, but it's a little like the reality of how fickle all these things can be. And when you actually have the audience saying, no, we find value in this and we will pay for it, you go, oh, we're not beholden to anybody other than the people that actually appreciate what we're making. There's no advertiser that can pull the rug from under us. There's no producer. There's no other entity that gets to define that. And it's a really welcome feeling. It makes me feel, you harness the power in your own hands at a certain point, and it's really nice. And it's all because the audience is so awesome. So I'm here to say thank you. I appreciate all of you. Even if you can't afford to support us, that's fine. Being here and listening and valuing what we put out into the world is important, and I'm grateful for it.
Yeah, patreon.com/film podcast is how you can do that. And this week, our After Dark, we're going to be discussing The New Mutants, which is something I asked Jeff and Devindra to watch, and they did. So
I think I actually watched it before that, but yes.
So speaking of valuing things, am I right?
Valuing our time.
Yeah. I value their time so much that I asked them to watch The New Mutants so we could talk about it. Anyway, thanks to everyone who is contributing at patreon.com/filmpodcast. I will also point out, though, Jeff, that the main show will always be free. I mean, I think that's the thing that we've gotten to some people who have not been as happy with the new Patreon. Like overwhelmingly vast majority of people are super happy with it, but a couple people have pointed out that they're not happy with Patreon. And I mean, the main show, as it has always been, will always be free.
Yeah.
So
nothing changes.
Nothing has changed. Nothing has changed
I don't get
on that
it.
front.
Yeah.
Right? So
there's just more. There's just other things
there's
that
other things now,
or less. Depending on how you look at it. If you think that having no ads is less, then there's maybe less.
There you go. You can pay for more and less at the same time. Anyway, you can also donate and make a one-time donation if you are interested, separate from the Patreon. And that's exactly what Simone Freed did this week, along with the following message. Dear Hardawar, Chen, and Kanata, for too long I've known that I oughta click to rate and review or donate funds to you. Please consider this note an errata. The past several years have been strange. I've struggled at coping with change. Stuck in grad thesis hell. A rough breakup as well. Plus COVID-19. And my ex of 2 months quarantined up with my best friend leaving me solo. And the vast political, social, economic destabilization of America. And 2020's general refusal to respect any rules whatsoever, including those of rhyme and meter.
Love it.
Brilliant.
Thank you guys for providing a space to be geeky and kind in one place. Feels like being with friends who know stories can mend. You give me hope for the human race. Sometimes crisis makes room for a dream. I now roam full time in an Airstream. Who knows what comes next, but I wish you mad checks. Signed, a fan of the /Filmcast team.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's great.
Comes from Simone Freed, who
Amazing.
also, by the way, drew an image of a money horse. I don't know. I've been thinking of for some of our money horse donors, getting them a digital image of a money horse that they could put on things.
Sure.
Maybe we'll do that with this. Let me text it to you guys right now if you have your phone, so you can at least look at it, so we can admire Simone's drawing on air of her drawing this money horse.
Incredible.
I just sent it to you guys if you could see that money horse. Okay. But I think this is pretty good.
It's a cow. That's brilliant. It's a cow that says nay. Oh, genius. That's genius.
Also, I have to say, living the dream of COVID life of traveling around in the Airstream. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, Simone, thanks so much for the generous donation and also for the lovely poem. And I'm glad that we could help you through some challenging times.
4 poems, I think.
Yeah. And you can always donate at paypal.me/filmcast, but never donate if it in any way causes you hardship or anything like that. There's a super easy way to support us for free. Let's go on to Apple Podcasts, leaving us a star rating or a review. We really appreciate it. All right, let's get to our review of Run. That was from the trailer for Run, the newest film by director Anish Chaganty. I'm going to read the plot summary over here from IMDb. This movie, by the way, has debuted on Hulu recently. A homeschooled teenager begins to suspect her mother is keeping a dark secret from her. This movie stars Sarah Paulson as Diane Sherman and Kira Allen as Chloe Sherman, her daughter. And it's notable because Kira Allen plays a wheelchair-bound character in the film, and she actually uses a wheelchair in real life, which is rare to see. Usually you see like an able-bodied person play somebody in a wheelchair on screen. So it's notable because she is a complete unknown prior to this point. And this is her debut in what Hulu has claimed is one of their most watched movies ever. So
not only is it her debut, but it's basically a two-hander.
Yeah.
Like she has to carry the movie.
Yeah, totally agreed. Yeah.
So against Sarah Paulson of all people.
Yeah. Sarah Paulson, a considerable talent. So Devindra Hardawar, what did you think of Run?
Yeah. So here's the thing. I really liked Searching. You know, Anish Chaganty's first movie. We reviewed it. We talked about it quite a bit. I felt like he had a good handle of what makes a good thriller, you know, but that movie also had some weak points. I'd say. I think that there are elements of like where that movie gets a little bumpy. And I'm like, oh, okay, you know, maybe this could have been smoothed out a little more. To me, Run just feels like all bumps. It is a thriller that it feels really well made. The actual choice, you know, the shot selection, the way he places the camera, and the way certain scenes are edited, and the actual acting, like I think are fantastic. I think this movie in many ways is technically a great thriller, but it is not a good thriller when it comes to actually making me care about these characters or the situation. It feels, I don't know how to say it. I feel like a good thriller, right, has to be grounded in a certain way where you can understand the rules of what's happening. You can kind of understand the universe, and you get what's motivating people. And I feel like this movie is just a little too short to really get into all that. In many ways, it feels to me like he took a plot thread from The Sixth Sense, a fantastic thriller, a perfect thriller, a movie that always, like, it is so grounded. Like when it pulls the rug out from under you, that is what we remember about that movie. That's how expertly constructed that movie was. But he basically took the sequence about the mother poisoning her child, you know, to keep her sick, like that one little plot thread, and it feels like that is the basis of this movie in many ways.
I think that's a pretty big spoiler, Devindra, so I'm gonna bleep that out. Okay. But fair enough. That I think this movie borrows from a lot of different influences.
Let me rephrase so we don't have to bleep that. Okay. I think this movie borrows a lot from one specific, you know, sequence from The Sixth Sense. And I don't think it adds much to it. And I will get into this in spoilers. But I think like in many, like all the key sequences of this movie where I should just be on the edge of my seat, really figuring out like what's happening, what's going to happen to these characters. I was just thinking like, God, this is so dumb. This is incredibly dumb. Everything happening on the screen here is unbelievable. Not in a way that I would, you know, I would allow for a certain amount of like, you know, a fantasy in a thriller, but the things that happen in this movie just feel so contrived and unbelievable and ungrounded that I just couldn't really take it seriously. And it kind of swings in a direction of getting to be very dark and basically a horror movie with no basis. I don't feel like it actually sets up where this movie needs to go. So yeah, I couldn't really like be on the same wavelength of this movie because I feel like it used so much shorthand to get to where it really wanted to be, which is basically kind of a horror thriller type of thing. And I don't think it justifies it. I think every set piece of this movie kind of falls flat if you really think about it. But yeah, I have to talk about that in spoilers, so I will leave it up to you guys. What did you think?
Jeff Kanata, hit us.
Well, Dave, I guess you could say I'll hit you with a limerick.
Could you?
I root for a film that I'm going to start over. I root for a film that portrays disability without the cliche, but this one's moronic. I'm not being ironic when I tell you to run away.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I disagree with the sentiment, but well done on the limerick.
Well done.
Thank you.
Well done.
This reminds me of A Wrinkle in Time. A movie I was rooting for. I was rooting for.
I was rooting. Yeah, I hear that. Yes.
I wanted that movie to be awesome. The people involved, the spirit of that movie, the inclusiveness. I wanted it to be great. And boy, was I disappointed with A Wrinkle in Time. And I completely agree with Devendra. He said the word that kept going through my head over and over and over. Dumb. Boy, did it feel dumb. This movie it's got a few sequences that I think create tension. And they create tension, excuse me, they create tension in the way that I love, where I'm thinking to myself, what do you do? What do you do in this situation? How do you get out? Oh, this character has a disability. They're a unique challenge that they have to overcome to get through it. And there's a couple of moments where the main character like does some MacGyver shit. It's really cool. Like thinks her way out of a situation. But mostly the movie turns on things that are so dumb, like a giant exposition room. Where are they going to be? Where is she going to be?
No, giant room, a giant exposition box.
The giant room of exposition. Where, what is the one place that we should put our main character when she's most in peril? In the room that has all the answers to all the questions that she has, neatly sorted for her to find.
When I commit a horrible crime, the first thing I do is clip the papers of my crime and just save it in like a nicely tidy evidence box. It's great. Yeah, it's smart.
And I mean, we'll talk about it in spoilers specifically, but that entire sequence is so infuriating to me that like this is where the movie turns. Like this is the turn of the movie, is by literally no agency of the main character at all. All of the questions of the movie are just laid at her feet and like, here you go. Here's all the information you wanted. She does nothing to earn it. Nothing. And it's so frustrating. And that's not even like, by that point, I had already really checked out of this movie because I feel like that is the most egregious example, but over and over and over, the movie seems to just really not respect my intelligence, which sucks because Searching, I felt, was so smart. Like, it respected the intelligence of the viewer in that, you know, it stayed on that computer screen and it understands that we know how to put, that we've all lived through dealing with our computer screens. And it did that in a very smart way. And this movie just felt like over and over and over again. I just thought this is the dumbest way that this could have played out. And I mean, it's unfortunate because, like I said, I was really rooting for this movie. And I think the performances are great. I think, Sarah Paulson's always great. But I think that Kira Allen is really good.
She holds her own, I think.
Yes,
which is
absolutely.
hard to do. And
it has a huge lift. Like this is a huge lift for her. Like it is a lot of shouldering the weight of the emotional roller coaster of this movie, and she does a great job. Like I hope she has a long and interesting career because she is, I think, a really interesting actress. But man, what she's asked to do here just feels like a waste. It's an interesting premise that has some cool ideas, but squandered on poor execution, in my opinion.
Well, let me get into some thoughts and then we can go to spoilers. But I really quite enjoyed this movie. You know, I'm always a fan of movies that as I mentioned with Panic Room, like take a few limited ingredients, mix them up a little bit, and do their best to make them exciting. And it was not clear to me that after watching this director's work that he would be able to make something like this work. Like it's arguably more challenging to do a movie like this that's like limited locations, limited characters, and make it exciting than it is to shoot a more conventional film that has like many locations and many characters and what have you. I was listening to an interview he did on KCRW, and he's talking about how this is kind of like the anti-searching, where it's like, it all takes place in one house, but it's like you're barely on the computer screen or something like that, and it's like, and I'll just say I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a little bit silly at the end, like some of the late plot developments are kind of silly.
Oh man,
we
haven't even got to that stuff yet.
But overall, there's like a few really effective, tense sequences, and there's a lot of creativity both in getting the characters into these situations, but also in how the Kira Allen character gets out of them. And I just think that there is a lot of ingenuity, both in terms of the script as well as the character. I was genuinely tense for several of the scenes, and as you mentioned, Jeff, I think all the performers do a great job. So I really like this film, and I recommend it. So yeah, those are our thoughts. But let's get into more.
But before we get to spoilers, I just want to say, like, real quick, especially for people who are waiting to actually watch it, I do feel like this movie feels like thriller cosplay. Like, that's the only way I could think of it. Like, it has the technique, it has the style of a thriller. It has the great actors. Like, Sarah Paulson is fantastic, and also if you want to see her be also, similarly fun to watch, I would say watch many American Horror Story seasons. She is fantastic in so many things. Right now, The Ratchet Show it's not great, but she is very good in it. But the sound design of this movie, the score of this movie, like nothing can ever really be quiet, because every little moment that is supposed to be dramatic has like the dramatic, rumblings or a sharp string, or everything feels like a jump scare in a way. So I feel like
Could not disagree more. I think that the score
ridiculous.
is actually really awesome. It's written by Torrin Borrowdale, and I found it to be really classical, like invoking kind of old school thrillers, like from like Hitchcock days. I thought it was great.
It definitely felt like old school thrillers. This is why I'm invoking the cosplay thing, because it feels like it is trying to do a lot of those old Hitchcockian things, right? There's a lot of Rear Window in this movie, except I don't know. We'll talk about it in spoilers, because
I was reminded of Wait Until Dark.
Sure.
All right, let's get to spoilers for Run starting now.
Now you're looking for the secret.
You're gonna see this coming.
No. But you won't find it because, of course,
You're not gonna see this coming.
you're not really looking.
I have been puzzling over how it works.
You don't really want to work it out.
Who's in the box? I have been dying to tell you. I want to tell you my secret now.
You want to be fooled.
All right, spoilers for Run starting now.
Yeah.
The show, by the way, that this most reminds me of is another Hulu show called The Act. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but this is based off of the real life story. Before The Act existed, there was a documentary directed by Aaron Lee Carr, brilliant director, former guest on Culturally Relevant, who directed a documentary called Mommy, Dead, and Dearest, which is the case of a girl named Dee Dee Blanchard, who is extremely overprotective of her daughter, Gypsy, who's trying to basically enacting Munchausen by proxy on this girl, right? And like saying she has all these illnesses and she's super sick, but in fact, like, it's possible that not that much is wrong with her. And so here in this movie Run, you obviously have a similar situation. So that's what this like. There's a lot of different inspirations. Shyamalan's one, but basically Munchausen by proxy, some psychological disorder where like the mom is inflicting damage on the child, and or like claiming that the child is damaged or sick somehow to get attention and sympathy.
Well, she somehow got her hands on the same pills that Queen's Gambit is using, and
you mean the magic plot pills that do whatever the plot needs?
The I was surprised that she didn't get magic chest powers from them, like in Queen's Gambit.
Yeah. So okay, so there is a sequence in this movie where I mean, Devindra, you had a beef that I think was like fairly legitimate, where
I have a beef with every single sequence of this movie. So let's go. Let's go. I have notes right now.
She finds out that her mom is feeding her these pills that she doesn't know what they do. And so
before we even, the inciting incident of this movie is that she just notices a pillbox with her mom's name on it.
Yeah.
And she's like, huh. I guess
there's no other
it is
level
weird.
of suspicion she's ever had from her mom until that moment, according to the movie.
Yeah. Because at the beginning of this movie, she is a girl who's okay. She's being homeschooled, and her mom like runs a really tight ship apparently. But she seems fine. The girl seems happy. The mom isn't like overtly abusing her or anything. She's not preventing her from leaving the house. It seems like Chloe, who's Keira Allen's character's name. Chloe seems fine with this. The only spark that something may be off is that her mom gets a bottle of pills, which her
mom is also like getting the mail.
Sure. Oh no.
I know. She's super
it's
eager about the mail. Yeah.
This is what I mean about like grounding this movie, because I don't feel like this movie lays the groundwork for kind of the insanity that follows, because really it all comes down to, oh, her mom got the mail before her, and oh, her mom seems to be getting pills, and then she notices, I don't know why, she starts peeling back the label, other than, oh, there's this new pill in my pill, pile, I guess every day. I guess that's different or something.
Well,
and then she pulls back the label, and that events, could be a little weird.
The events of the movie are she notices this pill bottle with her mom's name on it. So she's like, why is she getting a pill bottle with her mom's name on it?
Sure.
Then
And
later
then
she
she sees
fetches
her
the
giving
pill
it to
bottle,
her.
and it has her name on it. And
Yes.
her mom
No,
has
no,
put...
What actually happens is she sees the bottle with her mom's name on it, and then she sees her mom give her that pill.
Correct.
Yes, that is
so
it.
she's like, why am I taking a pill that was prescribed to my mom?
Yes, correct.
Yes.
So then she
So
fetches...
that's a little curious. Yeah.
She fetches the pill bottle, and then she finds out that, hey, it's actually her name on it, but her mom has pasted her name over her mom's name, so she's clearly trying to hide something.
That is a good spark for, if you're, okay, something weird is happening, right? But
are we still believe that she's been taking that pill for her entire life? Or at least since she was 6 or whatever those pictures are? Like, and also, I'm not a person that takes a lot of pills, but isn't it only in Hollywood that pills are visually distinct?
I was talking with my wife about this. Like, when it comes to like name brand stuff, those pills will often look the same. Okay, like they will have specific colors and everything. So maybe that's what they're going for, and they kind of mentioned this in the movie. But yeah, if you're getting off-brand stuff or generics, and those could be whatever.
It's all plausible, which is why in a handy piece of exposition, the stranger that she dials on the phone says, "Every single pill of this kind looks the same." So that way,
Dave,
that question's taken care of.
I do not know how you can take this movie seriously after that whole phone call sequence, wherein
it is such a
weird
just
calls a random dude.
And the random dude just helps her. It's her solution to the it's a tantalizing problem, right? They established a tantalizing problem. She's got no internet. She can't find out the information that she needs. How is our hero going to solve that problem? That is a wonderful dilemma.
And the 411 bit is good. Like the bit where it's like, oh, I'm going to call 411. Oh, they're going to charge me.
Yes,
gotta hang
exactly.
up.
It's going to be on the bill. Her mom's going to see. That's all great. And then you go, what's the next step? What would I do?
And was your answer, call a completely random stranger and ask him to Google something for you?
Call Tony Revolori and he will help me out, baby.
By the way, in no point do I believe this is a real human being she has reached. Like the level of establishing the character via, honey, that kind of shit. I was just like,
her social engineering,
grating.
Her social engineering, just masterful. Of like, she'll come around. Yeah, don't worry. Don't worry about it.
The solution is that she's just gonna like pep talk this dude and pep talk his relationship. And so he's like, oh, the pep talk. Well, okay. Well, now I'll Google.
I will
and then
Google
he's just
for
like,
you, stranger.
He's in front of his computer, Googling, ready to Google. It's such a bad way out of that problem, which is a cool problem to put your character in.
Yep.
And you guys are saying it's bad because it strikes you as implausible, basically, right?
Implausible. Dumb.
Yes,
Dumb is the word.
Dumb.
It's dumb.
If I read this in a book, if I saw this in a TV show, I don't care who wrote it, directed it, I would call this dumb. Yeah.
Is there any universe, Dave, in which you think that the solution would be to just dial a random number?
I don't know. I mean, I guess what is your solution that you'd come up with? Because it felt I think the movie portrays it as
I didn't write the script.
Yeah.
The movie,
or at least
the movie portrays
give me other calls. Like give me
exactly.
calls
give
of
me
like
a couple
people like
of failures.
Yeah.
and she
Yeah,
has to
somebody
find the
saying,
right
"Fuck off."
person.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like-
maybe they shot those and they're like, you know what, we don't need it because no one is going to be hung up on this.
No, you're right. You're right. I definitely
Yeah.
need to give it credit for the things that didn't make the movie.
Okay. I think you're being sarcastic there, Jeff, but that's okay. That's okay. Anyway, so she finally deduced. Now the thing that really got to me was when she's like, okay, let's go to the movie theater.
Let's go to the movie theater. Yeah.
And she flees to go to the pharmacist and asks the pharmacist like what's going on, and I think it's a great like touch that the pharmacist knows them because they they're in touch. But then like the mom finds her there, and it's like what was a series of events that had to happen for the mom to find her there?
My daughter's not in the bathroom. She must be at the pharmacy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of like, okay, movie, you're kind of pushing.
Yeah.
My suspension of disbelief is kind of shaken just a little bit here, But then, I mean, she wakes up in the room of
Well, let's just hang on to this pharmacy sequence a little, right? Because it goes on, right? So first of all, the girl tries to say like, I had this pill, don't know what's up, and then the pharmacy is like, oh, if it's your mom's pill, can't give it to you. And then the like
we're playing
the
a
like
game.
kicker.
We're playing a game. And then the pharmacist, she just found the perfect pharmacist who fucking loves games.
Because she saw the picture of a puzzle room,
of an
right?
escape room. Yeah. So I'm gonna play. You're right, Dementia. She is a master of social engineering.
She knows games.
She could, like Sherlock Holmes. She picks out that this person is obsessed with games because of that escape room
That one
photo.
clue. Yeah.
And well, I'll bend the rules if it's for a fun game. That's the fucking solution to that problem? Nah, you're right. I love games, so let me help you out and give you this confidential information because you guys are playing a scavenger hunt. Who fucking believes that?
I mean, Jeff, you think it's really silly. I think it's, again, they're making the most out of the limited ingredients they have. And I think
I do have to say, Dave, I am thinking of you differently now after accepting the like horseshit this movie is selling us.
I mean, you're the one. You liked Queen's Gambit, Devendra. So
I like Queen's Gambit,
we're even.
and I can defend Queen's Gambit, but you did not go in and fundamentally deconstruct every aspect of Queen's Gambit that like that you hated. And I can do that for this movie. So let's keep going.
I want to get to the room.
Yes, fine. Let's
because
well, okay. Let me just say this.
No.
Do we like her? Can we at least say like her escape sequence was good? Because I thought that was pretty cool.
Escape,
I thought that was
okay.
Yeah, that was cool. That with the using the
inanimate carbon rod or whatever it's called.
She uses her soldering iron.
Soldering
iron to crack the glass, and then she spits water on it, which makes it crack. Like, that whole sequence.
The reason that sequence is awesome is because you keep going, why does she fucking have a mouthful of water this whole time? And that's brilliant. That's genuinely brilliant sequence. And it's cool. It's some MacGyver shit. It's like, it's awesome. So yes, I will grant you that sequence is really cool.
That sequence in a vacuum is cool. What happens after the end of that sequence? Somebody who's asthmatic all of a sudden physically exerted herself quite a bit, and now she's having an asthma attack. This girl deconstructed the physics of blowing open a window that she didn't even know was open or closed. But she was smart enough to grab her soldering iron, put on an extension cord, hold a mouthful of water. She is asthmatic. She's lived her entire life with asthma. She knows she's doing something that's incredibly physically demanding. She does not bring her asthma inhaler.
Maybe she had a lot on her mind, Devendra. She had a lot she had to do.
Probably she so methodically thought out this entire plan. But okay, yeah.
Why not have her drop the asthma inhaler when she's out the window, right?
Yes,
she's got so many things in her hand. You drop the asthma inhaler, it lands on it lands on the first story. Yeah, it slides down the thing, falls. And now we know. Does she turn back? Does she keep going? She knows she has asthma. Ramp up the tension instead of it just being like, I don't know.
Well, Agree to disagree. I thought it was actually, but I will say that everyone else I was watching it with said, "Hey, why did she forget her inhaler after doing all this other stuff?"
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But I think,
Yeah.
but I think that it makes sense because she had all this stuff. You know, you're carrying like 18 things out the door, you know, and it's like, oh, I forgot one of the things that was important. It's completely plausible to me.
Yeah.
I forgot
So
that life-saving one.
The life-saving one, yeah.
I think it's very plausible, but you know, you guys don't, and that's okay. All right, so we get to let's get to the room of exposition, which I think
No. Now we have to get to the postman.
Mailman? Yeah, mailman.
Mailman. So
We gotta
she
do mailman
wheels
first.
herself down to the mailman, and convinces him that he seems like the only person in this movie who is like not an idiot. You know, who fundamentally understands that something is wrong here. I've known this woman and her child my whole life, but I don't quite trust her based on what I'm seeing here. And then we don't expect him to turn around and for this to happen. It seemed a little contrived in the way that I think anybody who's seen a thriller kind of knows what's going to happen. I just personally wish like he was like, man, just you're not safe here. Why am I just like hanging out here waiting for your mom to follow us or something? Maybe I should get this girl to safety a little faster. Maybe we should hustle, you know, because this girl is bleeding. But yeah.
I'll give the movie credit. I thought that sequence was well done. I liked how that guy
Pat Healy, very talented actor.
Pat Healy's
very talented actor.
They show the gun. They show the gun. Didn't use the gun. Okay,
yeah,
like that's
true.
fun.
Chekhov's gun didn't go off. But I did like the way he handled that. I thought that was all really well shot.
He handled
and how
it well.
He's like, where do you want to go? The police station or the hospital? I thought that was cool. Like, I didn't expect his character to be smart because the rest of the movie has been smart, and I feel like he was smart. And I'll give that sequence some credit. But where we end up after that is the dumbest thing I've seen in a long time, because she took the time to chain the wheelchair with a long ass chain that's long enough to get to the magic box of exposition.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like she can't leave the basement, but she can get to the box of exposition. So it's it's a little bit of a contrivance.
Why would you keep the evidence? Why would you?
Yes. Okay. So let's just say. Now I agree with you, Devindra, 100%. That is the stupidest thing in the fucking world to keep the paper clipping of the real parents.
Yeah, I was like, that's literally the words came out of my mouth when I was watching it. Why would she have that newspaper clipping?
Okay, but okay, let's just say for shits and giggles that, you know, some criminals return to the scene of the crime.
Right.
There's an obsession. Maybe there's some sort of deep down guilt that you want to like. There's some weird thing. I'll even just grant the movie, even though it is the stupidest fucking thing. Let's just say, okay, she's got a box that is categorized like with even chronological order of an exact progression of events that happen. Okay, so let's just say she's got that box.
Yeah,
I will not accept the idea that she kept the letters of acceptance to the colleges. There is zero reason for her to have kept any of them.
Right? Well, maybe she was going to change her mind later and let her daughter go, you know?
Instead of killing people and drugging her daughter. No, like intercepting the letters, not wanting her to go to college, all is consistent. The idea that she would keep in a stack that's within reach of the person she chained is the stupidest shit I have ever. It is so insulting to the intelligence of the audience. We get that she fucking stole the letters from the mail. We get that like in Act 1. We got that. We understand that's what, like, we saw her at the meeting where she's like, I definitely am okay with my daughter going away, and you're like, nope, no, you aren't. You know, we get it. The idea that the movie thinks we're so stupid that we need to see the actual acceptance letters and that she would fucking keep them. There's no universe in which she keeps them. It's the stupidest shit I've ever seen, dude.
Well, the kicker to the scene.
Go ahead, Devindra.
I'm sorry, Dave. I know this movie's already dead and we're still killing it, but
I don't agree, but okay.
The kicker to this scene is that when her mom finally confronts her and tries to lie to her again, like tries to gaslight her about all this, the camera pans to the box full of evidence. The camera pans to the letters we just saw 2 minutes ago, and she looks back at her mother. Like, that's the sort of thing where I'm like, you don't even trust me to remember what you just told me 2 minutes ago. Like, I can't accept that.
Here's what I'll say is that they obviously wanted to pay off the whole idea of the daughter, like her stealing the admissions letters, right? Like they
Sure.
wanted to pay that off. It's a critical part of the film's plot about this mom denying her daughter independence and stuff like that. So then the question is, okay, well, how are you going to pay that off, right?
That should have
Can
been
you have?
there's
Many ways you can. You guys have talked for 5 minutes about this. Let me talk for like 30 seconds, okay? There's many ways you can pay that off, right? You could have Sarah Paulson tell the daughter, I've been keeping I threw away the letters because you're with me and we need each other, blah, blah, blah. You could have her do that. That's one way you could do it. But basically they looked at all the options and they decided, hey, it's probably the most dramatic, the most kind of emotionally satisfying for Kira Allen's character, Chloe, to actually discover the information herself and like have that look of horror on her face. Like they made the choice that was the best way to do it. Now,
can I provide an alternative thing just off the top of my fucking head?
Yeah.
Which is, hey, maybe in that room, instead of all of the evidence so perfectly, pristinely laid out in front of her, maybe she has to actually do something to earn it. Maybe she has to actually figure out a way to move something to get the chain long enough so she gets to the fireplace where she sees the burnt embers and there's just the insignia of the W that we've established, and she realizes, oh shit, she burned the letters. Like anything that shows some fucking intelligence for any character in this movie, there's no the ingenuity of the main character is stolen. She does nothing to earn the information that she gets, and the diabolical nature of the villain is stolen because she does the stupidest thing that you could possibly do. It just ruins any investment I have in these people, because it's like, well, these are just the stupidest people I've ever seen.
Well, one other thing just worth mentioning here, like maybe the problem is having both of those reveals like back to back in the dumb exposition room. The discovering those letters could have been a great first act ender. Like that would have been a much better thing to make the daughter distrust her mother, rather than these pills I've never seen before. That's weird.
So yeah, first of all, actually not bad ideas, guys. I mean, I will say it's possible that some of these ideas were considered and rejected, for dramatic reasons, for practical reasons. I think for me, they struck me as like the movie had earned quite a bit of credit up until that point for me, and I was like, okay, I see what you're saying. I'm kind of like, okay, I think you guys, this does feel a little bit dumb, and
it's just so unlike you to give the movie the benefit of the doubt. It's so unlike you, Dave. I'm just shocked. That's all.
But the movie, but I guess that's a testament to like how strong I felt the movie had overall been until that point. But yeah, and then the finale, and the thing is, the movie does some really, really smart things, and there's a whole sequence where like her getting out of the house, she like throws the wheelchair off of the lift and everything like that. It's like hardcore. There's this moment when she's trying to like communicate with the nurse at the hospital, and the nurse is like, sorry, we can't give you a pen, like let's give you a crayon instead. And it's just like, oh, like most movies probably would have like brushed past that, but like this is a movie that actually like addressed that in some way. So the movie did like quite a number of smart things, and it did some dumb things, and I forgave it for the dumb things because of all the smart things it did. That's kind of how I feel about it. But Devindra, we're almost at 2 hours here, so I think we got to wrap up soon. That said,
sure.
I'll say this. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it made great use of the actors, great use of the setting, and it has some silly parts, including like the very end.
We have to talk about the very end.
Okay.
We have to talk about the very end.
Jeff, what's your beef with the very end?
Everything. All of this. Yeah,
I want you to tell me what your non-beef with the very end is. I want to understand
what my non-beef is.
I mean, how do you like? Okay, we flash forward 7 years.
Yeah,
right. I mean, she gets shot, takes a header off the stairs, which I thought was actually kind of cool, right? That's kind of a cool thing. And like, I
was half expecting Chloe to like kick her off or something, like because she's standing right in front of the stairs.
Yeah,
like
give her some sort of like. She's the one who's not going to be able to walk, and that'll be comeuppance.
Yep.
But So I mean, I guess she's like reunited with her original parents, and they're the grandparents to her kids, and she is now smuggling the same horse tranquil or dog medicine in her mouth.
Yeah, and is she like force feeding it to her mom somehow? Like,
what the fuck?
Yeah. This entire movie is the Simpsons steamed hams thing. Okay? You expect me to believe this woman, after 7 years, held a grudge so long, she has just forced her mother to drink these pills. This girl who seemed perfectly sane and like nice otherwise, now she is like basically a psychopath.
She's a psychopath.
She's a
total monster, you know? Like, I did not feel like that was a justified punishment to her mom. And how is it all even working out? I mean, she's so sweet, and she's like dutifully coming there every week, every
there must be
days?
Cameras in there, something, but okay.
It's such a strange turn, and I think the movie wants us to be like, fuck she did it. She got her turnabout is fair play, and it's like, no, that's not what we want from our main character. We want our main character to be a little noble here,
have her sweet life, go to college,
Yes,
that's what we wanted.
I guess I feel like that ending is kind of it puts the movie squarely into camp territory, I think I would say, right?
Yes,
and,
not in a good way.
Sure.
Yeah, all right, fair enough. But
also,
I agree. It wasn't. It felt weird to me, especially given the kind of self-seriousness of the moments leading up to it. Like, she kind of gets up and walks through the metal detector. She has a ring. You're like, oh wow, this is a character that's like overcome her shit.
Exactly.
Right?
And you've already set up the fact that she falls down the stairs. You can have her get that comeuppance in a relatively natural way that, like, we would buy. Like, if you just saw her bedridden or in a wheelchair herself, you go, oh, I understand.
By the way,
how that happened.
the cut to Sarah Paulson is just like zombie. She is a zombie.
I will say
now.
Sarah Paulson, a beautiful woman, looks absolutely terrible in that scene. Like they really went over the top, I think, with that makeup in that last scene.
That's
But why? So. I mean, how? Like, okay, so she smuggles the medicine in.
You expect me to believe that she smuggles the medicine
down her throat? How is she forcing her to take it?
Yeah.
Why did she just not take it? I don't.
And wouldn't like a better, more heroic ending for our character who's gone through so much? She was stolen from her parents. By the way, very hard to steal a baby. Very fucking hard to steal a baby from a hospital.
Agree with that.
Unless it's like in the 1950s or something. Like, hospitals have come up with all these systems to make sure that babies cannot leave. Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up, because they just yada that
yada.
And
give me the Ocean's 11 heist of how that happened, please.
Yeah, and there's even like the thing where it's like mystery mother or mystery person's being searched for to find baby. It's like, well, maybe you should check the lady that lost her child and then
the lady who disappeared.
Yeah, maybe you should just, I don't know, because there's there's a whole universe of, did she invent a new identity? Because there's going to be somebody that's going to knock on her door and go, hey, we're checking with all the people who were in the hospital at the time that the child was stolen. Like, does she invent a whole new identity to be able to pull that off? All of that is just yada yada. It's just like, oh no, yeah, she stole another baby. It's like, no, that's fucking hard. That's not a thing. That's not a thing you just do. Anyway.
Well, here's what I'll say is, I'm planning to interview the director this weekend for Culturally Relevant, and I will think about asking him some of these questions. But overall, I like the movie. I'm sad you guys did not. But
I'm sad I didn't either. I wanted to love this movie. I want, I want more great thrillers like this to succeed. Yeah, I was rooting for it.
I'll just say this: there's nothing you guys are saying that I'm like, wow, how could someone possibly think that? Like, it's all reasonable reactions you guys are having. It's just not the reaction I had. I thought it had more good going for it than bad. So.
I feel like I could go through this entire movie and just repeat the steamed hams thing, and it would fit every single sequence.
So brilliant, Devindra. It's so fucking true.
Yeah, I mean, that's so even though I disagree with the sentiment, that it was a very good analogy.
At the end of the movie, it's like, yes, I do expect you to believe this. Yes.
Well, can I have some?
All right.
No.
That's going to bring us to the end of this episode of the Slash Filmcast. Stay tuned to hear what we'll be discussing next week. Find more episodes at slashfilmcast.com. Email us at slashfilmcast@gmail.com. Our theme song comes from adamwarrock.com. Our spoiler bumper comes from filmmaker and YouTuber Kyle Hillinger. Our weekly plugs music comes from Noah Ross. This episode was edited by Beatty Zhang. Next week, we'll be reviewing Mank, the new David Fincher film. And in the After Dark...
Wait, I've heard that before, Dave. We said that we were going to review that movie before.
I know. Hopefully I didn't fuck it up this time. And I think we'll probably be discussing Citizen Kane and maybe other things next week in the After Dark. And in this week's After Dark, we got some conversation about New Mutants coming up for you. So if you are a patron at patreon.com/filmpodcast, you're going to hear it before everyone else. Thanks for listening. We'll see you later. People in the chat, thanks for tuning in. We're going to stop this now because we're recording the Patreon exclusive. So, but thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your support. Thanks to Bolt, who became a patron thinking he would be able to hear the New Mutants episode right now. Sorry about that, Bolt.
Soon, Bolt. We appreciate it, though.
Couple days. Hiron says, this is funny and painful that Anise is a big fan of Slash Film and is going to listen to this episode.
I feel really
sorry.
bad about that.
I'm really
genuinely.
sorry.
Well, different filmmakers react in different ways. Some filmmakers can appreciate like hearing deconstruction and analysis of the film's problems, and of course, many people much more respected than us have liked the film. So, but we'll see.
So what we said doesn't matter.
No, the good thing about us is that no one respects us, so we can say whatever we want.
That's exactly.
I'm not Rotten Tomatoes approved. So I cannot ding that. 90%.
Actually, that's not true. We are technically, but anyway, people in the chat, thank you. You'll get the New Mutants review in a couple days if you are a subscriber at Patreon. Enjoy and talk soon.